Hello. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We're about to start. Just 1 minute.
Okay.
Stop. Hello.
Good morning. We are going to start. Please unmute yourself if you are not a speaker. Thank you very much.
الإنترنت سيء.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome on board. We're more than glad to see you at our today's online event. And to be honest, I'm so excited about our seminar because I'm sure it will shed more light on different legal aspects of doing business in Ukraine. My name is Al-Hazheda. I'm third secretary at the Embassy of Ukraine in Kuwait, and as usual, I will be moderating today's meeting. I know most of you have already received the PDF file with the program of our event, and of course, I will send it again in the common Zoom chat. And of course, there will be even more materials prepared by our experts. But for those of you who might have missed our program, I will briefly highlight the subjects which our distinguished speakers will be talking on today. So we've got 4 major questions which often arise when foreign businessmen think about doing business in Ukraine. How to register a company in Ukraine, how to get a residency permit in Ukraine, what is the taxation system in Ukraine, and how to buy real estate. Our experienced expert and the embassy's reliable partner who has a deep understanding of the subject, of course, will cover all these questions in his speech. But before we move to the main part, let me invite you to write your questions in the common Zoom chat here. So actually, we're eager to get a powerful feedback from you, so our seminar becomes more relevant, more useful, and more practical. So please don't hesitate to ask any questions related to the subject of our discussion in the Zoom chat. At the end of the seminar, it will be addressed to our speaker. And also one very important moment, if I may ask you to mute yourself, so please switch off your microphone unless you're delivering the speech. Okay, time is money, as businessmen say, so let's get started. And I kindly invite Dr. Alexander Balanutsa, Ambassador of Ukraine to the State of Kuwait, to open our seminar with a welcoming remark and to share with us some of your profound views and thoughts. Dr. Alexander?
Thank you very much, Ms. Olga. Very good morning, dear ladies and gentlemen. It is an extremely honor and pleasure to see all of you today. And let me start by words of thanks and appreciations given, first of all, to the Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Kuwait our permanent partners with who we are conducting a number of seminars. For the last year, we've had a chance to do more than 20 different B2B meetings and online seminars and forums. And I would like to extend my greetings to the Chamber of Commerce of Kuwait, as well as the Union of Investment Companies in Kuwait, who are also our support and partner in providing information to the Kuwaitis companies on how to do business in Ukraine. I cannot but mention my dearest friend, Said Safir, Dr. Rashid al-Adwani. Mashkur. Thank you very much for your permanent, friendly, personal support for any event that we are holding. I know we're giving some hard time because we're profiling and advancing and producing and presenting lots of things, which you definitely think we're doing a great number of. And definitely with your support, we're trying to connect Ukraine and Kuwait business-wise. And today, as a result of what we have, we've invited our partner, DLF legal company, the best at the market, as I can say so far. Our partners who are always supporting us with the elegance, with the purposeness, with the rightfulness things that we need to do in order to avoid mistakes. And also we have business communities which are present today at our event. And we see the representatives from Odessa, from Lviv, from Kiev, from Kharkov. And I'm very thankful for your dedicated time, for your efforts which you invest into joining us today. We have around 80 people at the moment. We expect that people will join us. As well, it is my honor to present in my personality today, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Council of Exporters and Investors, who are doing the utmost at their capabilities to provide the information to the foreign partners, to offer the amazing opportunities that Ukraine has to offer, so that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Council of Investors and Exporters are doing all the necessary work for you, dear ladies and gentlemen, dear investors, dear businessmen, those who really wish and consider, and we hope will definitely do business in Ukraine. As you know, our embassy recently has made a short video on how many events we actually performed and concluded last year. We had more than different 40 events, 20 online B2B meetings plus seminars, which would narrow sometimes the scope of the actual B2B meeting. But at last, we offer the diversity of things. We spoke about the investments, we spoke about real estate, we spoke about agriculture products, we spoke about furniture, we spoke about literature, we spoke about sweets, you name it. There is a list of programs that we did. And only because of your feedback, which we are very thankful for you, we received that feedback that really we need to understand what is the taxation regime in Ukraine? What are the requirements for us to come? What is the IQAMA procedure? How can we get the residence card? Because of your feedback, we provided some thoughtful thinking, and together with our partners, the DLF company, we decided that we will do this seminar, informational seminar for you, so that you will have your answers answered, questions answered. And please, you will have the chat where we will also publish some of the products, some of the informational papers and files, which DLF has prepared for us, and we will upload there for your usage. Please be very free to ask us any questions. My colleagues and myself will be very happy to answer and target everything you have. And if you have any ideas, any wishes, what you would like to have more as the information, please let us know for the future prospects so that we will work thoroughly and provide you in the nearest future also with your answers. Once again, I could not do this event without the support of my staff at the Embassy of Ukraine, and definitely with my partners, Dr. Rashid al-Adwani, who will have a word now, definitely the Chamber of Commerce, who are my partners from the very first day that I'm here, and I'm very thankful for them, as well as the Union of Investment Companies, who know so much about us. So they are our advocates now in Kuwait. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your attention. We're going to actually the core of our seminar. Ms. Olga, thank you very much. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Alexander, for your energy boost. And now the floor goes to Dr. Rashid al-Adwani, Ambassador of the State of Kuwait to Ukraine. Dr. Rashid, أهلا وسهلا بكم. كلنا أذانا صاغية.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Alexander, Balanutsa, Ambassador of Ukraine in Kuwait. Good morning for everyone who participated in the seminar. I want you to add something. I will speak about the business in Ukraine and how the firm or the business. What we are doing now with you, Alexander, right way to explaining for all companies in Kuwait or in Ukraine how the firm of connection on commercial or topic, the business is growing between Kuwait and Ukraine, and we are looking now for to encourage the visitor between Kuwait and Ukraine, and we encourage the businessman, especially from Kuwait or from Ukraine, to visit and to deal directly with the company. There is some issue I want to give it need your attention. If you have any business, please deal with the Chamber of Ukraine. They for all Kuwaiti companies, they are ready to see you, to meet with you, to give you advice, any legal advice, what you needed. Come to
online.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, please continue.
Sorry, it's okay?
Yeah, perfect. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry. We are at the embassy too. We are ready to meet you, all the companies who would like to come to Ukraine. We assist you with the legal office. We assist you to do business and to encourage. And thank you for you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rashid. We always appreciate your wholehearted support. And just a short friendly reminder to our guests, please mute yourself, switch off your microphone unless you're delivering a speech, because as for now, we are 86 participants. It's quite a lot. And of course, don't miss your unique opportunity to address a question. You can type it in the comment chat, and it will be answered at the end of the seminar by our distinguished speaker, whom I will introduce right now. So it's my honor and pleasure to invite Mr. Igor Dikunsky, partner of the company DLF Attorneys at Law. As we have said above, Mr. Igor with colleagues are the true professionals whose expertise and knowledge of the subject are undoubtedly one of the highest, because the DLF company offers tailor-made solutions for numerous companies, but of course the company's representative will himself give us more details on that. So Mr. Igor, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Olga. Your Excellencies, Dr. Alexander Balanutsa, Your Excellence, Dr. Mr. Rashid al-Adwani, thank you for this opportunity provided to us today. Dear participants, it's nice to see so many of you here on the same event. It's a sign that it's a sign of growing interest of foreign investors who would like to start their business here in Ukraine. Today, my colleague Yuri Dinis and I will be speaking about establishing a company in Ukraine, purchasing real estate, obtaining work permit and residence permit in Ukraine. These are the first topics when starting business activities in our country. We have only 1 hour, and it will be quite difficult to cover all the peculiarities of the Ukrainian law. However, I would like to point out here that's really easy to do business in Ukraine, and our law firm DLF would be glad to support you in any business endeavor. I would like to draw your attention to our website. We have a lot of useful information there, and you can find many articles, for example, how to buy an agriculture company in Ukraine, how to establish an IT company, or how to purchase real estate. In our brochure, Ukraine investment guide, we mention the most important information related to doing business in Ukraine. And of course, we will provide you with this publication after this webinar. And now, without further ado, on to Yuri and our presentation.
Hello. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for taking the time to join us today. We are delighted to welcome you on our webinar, Doing Business in Ukraine.
Excuse me, sir. Could you please switch off sound because we hear like extra voices?
Yes.
There should be only one device.
Yes, sure. Okay, it's all right.
Now it's great. Thank you.
Nice. So let me share, please, our presentation to support our talk. Okay. Everybody see our presentation? Yes.
Great. Yes.
Okay. In this webinar, we will share legal tips of how to start and provide your business in Ukraine, including company registration, taxation overview, stay and work permits, real estate acquiring, and deals. The most common way to start business in Ukraine is to establish a company. And the most common legal type of a company for doing business in Ukraine is limited liability company, or LLC. The shareholders of LLC are not liable for the obligations of the company and assume the risk of the loss related to the company's activities within the scope of their contributions. In Ukraine, a foreigner or foreign legal entity company can own up to 100% in the company's authorized capital. You can establish or buy LLC in Ukraine. LLC may be established by one shareholder. If this sole shareholder is an individual, he may act as a director of the company. As a rule, registration of an LLC takes up to 24 hours. Receiving all registration documents, opening a bank account, and registering an LLC with the customs can take up to several business days. What do you need for registration? First of all, a charter of your Ukrainian company. It's a main statutory document of a company. A minutes of shareholders meeting, an extract for trade or court register for company members, or passport copies for individual members. Information on the ownership structure and ultimate beneficial owners, and notarized copies of the passports of the ultimate beneficial owners. Please note that some documents require apostillation or consular legalization, depending on the country of issuance. After the registration, if you want to be a director, you need to obtain work permit. For all these activities, I mean, signing statutory documents, registering the company, receiving all the necessary documents, you can assign the representative in Ukraine and your presence is not required. If you need, all you need is to issue a notarized power of attorney. The minimum size of LLC authorized capital is not determined in Ukraine. So you may determine the size of the shares of your discretion, even in size of $1. But please note that in practice, if you are not sure you will have turnover immediately after the registration, it is recommended to form authorized capital in the amount sufficient at least to cover your basic expenditures, opening bank accounts, first tax payments, office lease, salaries, buying office or renting office, and buying or renting production techniques and like this. Further, you can fund your LLC by your non-repayable financial assistance loans. If you don't need to contribute immediately after the registration. But if you will need money for LLC operations, the contribution in authorized capital is one of the easiest way to do this. The contribution of a shareholder may be in cash, securities, or other property. The director on behalf of the company shall sign any contracts. If you decide to be a director, you need to obtain work permit. If you need to carry about your business personally for more than 90 days within 180 days per year, you need to obtain a temporary residence permit. How to obtain it, we will talk further. Except of establishing, you may buy an already established company in Ukraine. It's a little bit easier than to establish a new one. The main advantage of the pushers of the shares in an existing company is the fact that it has already built a management structure. It has assets necessary for its activity, contractual relationships with partners and customers, as well as experience in specific areas of business. This scheme is actual for agriculture companies because of a complicated way of concluding land rent agreements. To reduce the risk of hidden liabilities, you need to conduct a detailed legal and financial audit. I mean, due diligence of the company you're buying here in Ukraine. If you already have a company outside Ukraine, you also may open a representative office of your company in Ukraine. But you should keep in mind that the Ukraine representative offices are usually established for the purpose of non-commercial activities, such as representation of the interests of your company, data collection, market analysis, or monitoring. Let's talk about taxation in Ukraine. The main taxes for business in Ukraine are corporate income tax, simplified taxation system, VAT, value-added tax, and personal income tax. Except these taxes, there are several specific taxes depending on business operation and kind of asset you own, such as single social contribution, military duty, and else. The corporate income tax is the main tax for business entities in Ukraine. Corporate income tax, or CIT, is paid by the resident companies which receive income in Ukraine as well as abroad. Currently, a flat rate of 18% is established for all CIT taxpayers in Ukraine. However, for some activities, a separate rate is applicable. The CIT base is the income derived from Ukrainian sources of origin and abroad. If you are providing business in Ukraine with your non-Ukrainian company, Ukrainian income of such company is taxed by CIT at the rate of 15%. The CIT tax base in the income from interest, dividends, royalties, as well as the proceeds of engineering, leasing, and rent, profits from sale of real estate, investment assets, and the proceeds of joint activities and entertainment activities. Value-added tax is the most common tax for all trade operations in Ukraine. The standard rate of VAT in Ukraine is 20%, but it could be reduced to 14% for some agriculture, for supply of some agriculture products, 7% for pharmaceutical products, and even 0% for some operation. As a rule, it's a custom operation or export operation. If your business is intended to be agriculture or small or medium business, you can choose to apply for a simplified taxation system. The most common for business, there are two kinds of simplified tax system in Ukraine. The third group of taxpayers of simplified tax system, and the fourth group of simplified tax system. The third group is taxed at 3% of income, excluding VAT, or 5% from income, including VAT. But you have some restrictions to operate in this tax system. Your maximum income per calendar year must be approximate no more than $267,000 US dollars per year. The fourth group of simplified tax system is for agriculture producers. These taxes in this group depends on the land you rent or use. It could be 0.19 or 6.33% of the valuation land of rate of the valuation rate of land you renting. But anyway, the tax obligation could not be less than the minimum tax obligation in Ukraine. For your the personal income of individuals in Ukraine is taxed by personal income tax. The personal income tax, or PIT, is paid by resident and non-resident individual and tax agents. PIT rates at 18%, while PIT rate for dividend payments is 5%. Let's mention some another taxes in Ukraine, like single social contribution and military duty. They're used in some operations or in the payment of salaries and wages. The single social contribution is paid by the employers, private entrepreneurs, self-employed citizens. The single social contribution rate is established at 22%. However, the maximum amount of the single social contribution shall not exceed approximately $3,500 US dollars. Military duty is paid by residents and non-residents or by. This tax is also important for the deals of selling real estate. It amounts, the amount of the rate of this duty is 1.5%. The military duty is paid from wages, other incentive compensation payments of benefits which are paid to the taxpayers on the basis of his employment relations or civil agreements. That I mean the agreements on selling real estate in Ukraine. As we mentioned above, for some activities like to work here in Ukraine or carry out your business in Ukraine, the foreigners need to have permits to stay in Ukraine and permits to work in Ukraine. Foreigners who have legally entered the territory of Ukraine have the right to stay in Ukraine for a period specified in the visa. Or if a foreigner does not need a visa to enter Ukraine, he is allowed to stay in Ukraine for 90 days within 180 days. For instance, citizens of Qatar, Kuwait do not need a visa to enter Ukraine for the stay period not exceed 90 days. The main purposes for which you can get a temporary residence permit are employment, job in the representative office of foreign companies, investing in a share in Ukrainian company at least 100,000 euro, studying with the purpose of family reunification with Ukrainian citizen or marriage to a Ukrainian citizen, and some specific cases like journalism, international participation in international programs, and so on. To apply for a temporary residence permit, you must personally submit the following documents to the authorized migration service. Of course, DLF can assist you with the preparing and translating all the documents and with applying for the desired document. So the documents are foreign passports of a foreigner with a D-type visa, a long-term visa which is issued at the consulate of Ukraine, a copy of the passport with a visa stamp, a copy of the foreign passport of a foreigner with a translation into Ukrainian certified by Ukrainian notary, a health insurance policy, receipts to confirm the payment of state duty and documents processing fee. In several cases, you need to submit additional documents: a marriage certificate, a passport of the citizen of Ukraine with whom a foreigner is married, to be submitted personally by the citizen of Ukraine. When applying for temporary residence permit as a result of marriage to a Ukrainian citizen, you should these documents you should submit when applying for a temporary residence permit as a result of marriage for Ukrainian citizen, and a copy of work permit in Ukraine when you're applying for a temporary residence permit for employment. Temporary residence permit is issued within 15 working days after the submission of documents. In Ukraine, working days means business day. You should get it personally. Once the temporary residence permit in Ukraine is issued, the immigration service makes a mark in your passport. As a general rule, a temporary residence permit is issued for a period up to 3 years with the right to renew it. After issuing a temporary residence permit, you must register at an address in Ukraine, which is specified in your application document. When renewing a valid temporary residence permit in Ukraine, the same documents are submitted as in the process of the registration. The documents required for a temporary residence permit renewal shall be submitted not later than 15 working days prior expiration of a temporary residence permit. Let's talk. Let me tell some few words about work permit. A work permit is issued to a particular person for a particular staff position, and it cannot be transferred to a third party. A work permit in Ukraine does not grant an unlimited access to the Ukrainian legal market and is tied to a particular employer. In some cases, you do not need work permit to work in Ukraine. For example, if you have a permanent residence permit in Ukraine, if you work in foreign representative office in Ukraine, if you are involved in implementation of international technical assistance, and if you are founder of legal entity. Work permit could be valid up to 3 years. A decision to grant a work permit in Ukraine is made within 7 working days and within 3 working days in case of extending renewal of work permit. A decision to Ukrainian laws do not set a limit of the number of work permits in Ukraine. A permanent residence permit in Ukraine is issued for a period of 10 years. It could be renewed for next 10 years at a low cost. Foreign citizens who have received a permanent residence permit shall have the right to stay in Ukraine without any time restriction, as there are no limits on the number of their visits to Ukraine. To obtain permanent residence permit in Ukraine, you must first obtain an immigration permit. The most common grounds for obtaining an immigration permit are kinship relations with Ukrainian citizens or other immigrants to Ukraine. If a foreign citizen does not have a family relationship in Ukraine, then making a foreign investment can serve as a legal basis for obtaining an immigration permit. Such investment must be not less than $100,000. These funds must be directed to the implementation of economic activities and receiving profit in Ukraine. That means that you cannot buy apartments, for example, or cottage for $100,000 and get the right for permanent residence permit in Ukraine. But you can open your own company, I mean LLC, for example, and deposit the amount of $100,000 in foreign currency into your authorized capital, and then buy real estate for this company, then rent it or buy it again. Another option is participation in the authorized capital of existing company. But your contribution must be only in form of money, in convertible currency. Corporate rights, shares, and bonds are not considered investments in this case. To obtain a permit for immigration in Ukraine, a foreign citizen, after making, for example, foreign investments in the needed sum, must obtain an immigration permit. According to the law, the period of processing an application for an immigration permit shall not exceed 1 year. But in practice, the Immigration Office of Ukraine usually considers the application within 3 to 6 months. However, in this time, due to the quarantine restriction, it may take longer. After obtaining an immigration permit and arriving in Ukraine, a foreigner must apply for a permanent residence permit to the local office of the Immigration Service of Ukraine in the place of his residence within 5 working days. The period for processing an application for a permanent residence permit in Ukraine is approximately 15 working days. Some words about real estate deals and purchasing process in Ukraine. To buy real estate in Ukraine, you should have your national international passport or temporary permanent residence permit issued in Ukraine, and the taxpayer's registration number. When acquiring the real property in the form of separate building, I mean cottage or some other building, you may also acquire the title to the land where the building is located. But the foreign nationals may acquire only titles to the non-agricultural land plots where the real property in their private ownership is located. Ukrainian laws do not allow selling agricultural land plots to foreign nationals in Ukraine for now. In future, if the national referendum confirm the right of foreign nationals to buy agriculture land, then foreigners maybe will obtain the right to buy such lands in Ukraine. The conclusion of the sale and purchase agreement and the execution of all necessary payments may be performed by you personally or your representative, for instance, DLF. All real estate sale and purchase agreement need to be registered as far as ownership of newly bought estate. The registration of real estate sale and purchase agreement is performed by the notary in Ukraine. At the time of registration of the sale and purchase agreement, the notary also registers the ownership of the real property. When registering the real estate sale and purchase agreement, you must also pay a state duty of 1% of the agreement price, as well as an obligatory pension insurance duty of 1% of the agreement price too. The bank is entitled to refuse payment in cash if the source of such funds or the documents provided do not meet the requirements of Ukrainian law. So how to perform payments? You can open an investment account and transfer to the investment account the foreign currency from abroad, or you can transfer directly to the current account of the seller in Ukraine the foreign currency from abroad. There are some another ways to make payments during the conclusion of sale and purchase agreement of real estate in Ukraine, but they're specified by the kind of particular deal. When you bought the real estate in Ukraine, you are entitled to dispose of this real estate at your own discretion. Use it, live in it, sell it, pledge, contribute to authorized capital, or rent it. But foreigners, property owners may not directly lease real property in Ukraine as an individual. The lease of the real property by a non-resident is only possible as a private entrepreneur, by establishing an LLC, or using service of third party, a local intermediary on the basis of the written contract. For renting property as a private entrepreneur, the registration of such private entrepreneur is needed. Registration procedures takes up to 10 days. Registration is carried out simultaneously with the real estate purchase. Obtaining a temporary resident permit for 1 year, and it is renewal, and you should take into account that for this activity, some restrictions are in Ukraine, that the total area of rented apartments or rented real estate should not be more than 400 square meters for apartments and 900 square meters for commercial property. Another option is to register or buy LLC in the way we talked about. When acquiring real estate, a special consideration must be given to the peculiarities of acquisition of real estate from the development or investment in construction and from the former owner. This, apart from the procedural matters, affects the financial costs to be incurred when concluding a legal transaction. Additional costs, for example, relating to the purchase of a new construction apartment, taxes, registration fees, and so on, depend on the structure of sale proposition by the developer in each particular case. In general, it should be noted that the purchase of the new construction apartment in Ukraine involves certain risks, for example, availability of developers' permits or his reputation, which have to be analyzed by lawyers before signing the sale and purchase agreement. In Ukraine, for proper due diligence, you can use the data of state registers, for example, the register of property rights on immovable property, register of court decisions. At the end of our presentation, let me tell a few words about taxation of real estate. The income from the sale of real estate depends on a particular deal. If you sell the first real estate object during the year and own it for 3 years before selling, you will be charged with 0 personal income tax and no military duty. If during this year you sell the second real estate object, you will be charged with 5% of personal income tax plus 1.5% of military duty. If you sell the third real estate object within the same time conditions, you will be charged with 18% of personal income tax plus 1.5 military duty. The ownership of real estate in Ukraine is taxed annually. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your attention. Feel free to ask any question you have, and we'll be happy to answer it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your great presentation. It was really, really very informative, well structured, and comprehensive. To be honest, many aspects which seemed quite vague and obscure before now seem very clear and transparent, thanks to your presentation. And now it's time for a question and answer session. Our audience is very active today, and this means that your vivid message has reached people and grabbed their widespread attention. So the first question is, how can I buy property in Ukraine, and how can I know price of property?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for your questions. By the way, there are a lot of questions and different questions, like legal due diligence, for example, of Ukrainian companies, or real estate, purchasing real estate in Ukraine. I would just suggest that we will answer all your questions today, of course, yeah. But some questions are really comprehensive and very deep, and it would be helpful for our participants when they send us the inquiries to our email address info@dlf.ua, and of course we will respond to them. As to the purchasing real estate in Ukraine, or websites where you can find all the information, I would suggest that we provide you the general legal overview. I think my colleagues have already sent in the chat our Q&A, purchasing real estate in Ukraine. And as to the websites, reliable websites, we can also send you some websites. However, the most of them are in Russian or in Ukrainian, yeah. And maybe it will be helpful if you specify in your email what real estate you are interested in, so we could make you some suggestions. What would be the best solution, the best option in your case?
Thank you very much, Mr. Rieger. Yeah, as far as I can see, some of the topics which our listeners arise in their questions have been already mentioned, but I will just repeat these questions. Maybe some of the information was missed. So the second question is, I'm a businesswoman from Pakistan, but I live in Saudi Arabia. How can I register my business in Ukraine?
In general, we have already explained this topic. And the procedure is the same. You have to, first of all, you have to issue, for example, a power of attorney to our lawyers, and we can obtain a tax number here in Ukraine for you. The next step would be to register a company in your name. You would be the director, obtain a work permit. After that, you would be forced to obtain a business visa at the Ukrainian embassy abroad, and then the last step would be to obtain to apply for temporary residence permit for up to 3 years.
Thank you very much. The following question really resembles some kind of an essay. It's quite long. Many thanks for putting this together. We recently see more and more inquiries in oil and gas fields in Ukraine to do drilling and completions for petroleum extraction purposes. Also, we do receive inquiries to deploy drilling equipment in oil and gas for Ukraine national oil and gas companies. We need to have full tax study in Ukraine, including import and employees tax and all liabilities on our company, if established in Ukraine. Also, we need to know the policy for the cash management and transfers from Ukraine, as all our accounts are in US dollars. So cash management and transfers from Ukraine, because they have accounts in dollars.
It's a really interesting question. It's a really comprehensive question. I would suggest that the participant sent us an email with not only with this question, but maybe he or she can describe the entire situation. It would be helpful for us to understand not only the question, but also the purpose of investment in Ukraine. And of course, we will be happy to support, to assist the participant with all the legal and tax issues here in Ukraine, with customs, with preparing all the required documents. Please send us an email to info@dlf.ua.
Thank you very much, Mr. Igor. And the next question is, developing real estate in Ukraine, how easy is that? Like, is there an easy way to learn about the market? I guess our today's conference is the first step that should be done. So watching this video should be like the must, but maybe you could highlight some major points.
Of course, the entire procedure of developing real estate in Ukraine is more time-consuming, yes, and but it's we support many foreign companies here in Ukraine who are active in developing of real estate. It depends on the kind of real estate, commercial real estate or residential. And of course, it depends on the location. I would suggest that please send us an email, your inquiry, to info@dlf.ua, and we will help you with all the required information. As mentioned, we have a lot of our on our website. We have a lot of useful information, not only about real estate, but also related to taxes. Yeah, and we can send you all the links we have already on our website, and it will help you for the first moment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rieger. And the next question is the following. What is the process to establish the company in Ukraine, knowing that one part of the company owner is a government entity, in our case, government of the state of Kuwait?
I wouldn't say that there are any differences between a state company, foreign state company, or a private company. The procedure is the same, and we have summarized the most important steps, yeah, and it's really easy to establish a company in Ukraine. Of course, we will need an extract from the trade register of the Kuwaiti company. We will need the so-called ownership structure. We'll prepare this document for our client, and power of attorney, but the procedure is the same, and it doesn't matter if the company is private or state-owned.
Thank you very much. A very short question. Is there any tax for import and export?
Yeah, for import, of course, but it depends on what are the goods, and we, of course, we will require a list of goods to be imported into Ukraine. And as to export, usually there are no taxes. Yeah, we have already mentioned it. And but in every specific case, we have to analyze not only the tax, not only customs duties, but also taxes, because we also try to find the best solution for our client.
Thank you so much. One of our listeners asked, all that you have said and mentioned, it's for all the nationalities, or there are some exclusions?
I would suggest in general, the rules are for all nationalities, but sometimes it is, I wouldn't say difficult, but there are some peculiarities regarding to documents to be provided from some countries. And as mentioned, I would suggest please send us your inquiries in email, and we will give you our first consultation free of charge, of course, and it will help you to understand what is possible in your case and what would be more time consuming.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rieger, for your openness and devotion. I'm afraid you'll have a lot of work because we have around 100 of participants who will mail you with their questions.
We have enough time, yeah, don't worry.
And the next question is, to establish a company, do we have to have a physical address in Ukraine, or we can establish a remote or virtual company?
You will need a legal address in Ukraine. It means this legal address will be entered into the Ukrainian trade register. Yeah, and of course, sometimes you will receive mails from tax authorities, maybe from other Ukrainian authorities, and it's more important that someone receives that mails. Yeah? And we can help you with legal address in Ukraine, in Kyiv, or in other cities of Ukraine.
Thank you so much. The next question. Can we apply for temporary residence visa permit prior to new company registration in Ukraine, or we need to establish the company first?
You will have to first establish your company in Ukraine. After that, you can obtain a work permit and residence permit for up to 3 years when we are talking about a temporary residence permit. But when we are talking about permanent residence permit, which is issued for 10 years, or it's easy to renew, it means it's really permanent. but you will have to renew it in 10 years. And it's in that case, you will have to invest at least $100,000 into Ukraine economy.
Thank you very much. The following question is about the residency permit. Your colleague has devoted much of his presentation to this question, but still there are some peculiarities which our listeners would like to know more. So what should I do to get the permanent residency permit? And what is the difference between temporary and permanent residence permits?
The difference is that the temporary residence permit is issued up to 3 years. You can renew it, it's no problem. Yeah? And every time you will have to apply for a temporary residence permit. And you are not forced to invest that amount of at least $100,000 into Ukraine economy. And if you are ready to invest at least this amount, we would be glad to support you with establishing a company in Ukraine and with obtaining the required immigration permit. And after that, the last step would be to obtain a permanent residence permit in Ukraine.
Thank you very much. Could you please provide us with the trusted brokers real estate website I may depend on to buy from?
Yes, as mentioned, we could send you some links. Yeah, please send us your email to us, and we will provide you with the required information and links.
Thank you. And what about Islamic banks in Ukraine? Are there any Islamic banks?
I'm not aware of any Islamic banks here in Ukraine, yeah, but I may be wrong. But as I know, there are no banks that kind in Ukraine, unfortunately.
Thank you very much. Another question, can you help us with due diligence also for an existing companies in Ukraine, such as Укрнафта, Укргазвидобування, Нафтогаз?
As by the way, it's a really interesting question. Also, we suggest our clients when they are considering buying Ukrainian companies to perform legal due diligence. It's not only legal and technical and financial due diligence, and it's really important to understand all the risk, how we could mitigate and eliminate the possible risk. And of course, our law firm would be happy to support you in that case. On our website, we have already prepared, I think, 4 or 5 articles about performing legal due diligence in Ukraine. For example, renewable energy projects of agriculture company. Yeah? And yes, we have enough experience in that case, and would be happy to support our clients in that field.
Thank you very much. Another question is also related to other spheres than the subject of our discussion. It's about soft skill services such as health, safety, security, and environment consultation. Like how about soft skills in Ukraine? Are there any opportunities in these fields?
There are a lot of opportunities in any sector in Ukraine, not only in the mentioned. Yeah, we have, for example, I think the best IT specialists. We are really strong in agriculture. We have other possibilities like manufacture in Ukraine. And of course, to answer your question more detailed, I think it's better to have, it would be helpful to start with analyzing the market, especially in that case, yeah, in that sector. But we have a lot of our clients in different sectors, and we can see that if you spend enough time for Ukraine, if you have here in Ukraine trusted advisors, you can be, of course, successful.
Thank you. One of our listeners would like to open a restaurant in Kharkiv, and he or she wonders if is that possible?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
And what about the business language in Ukraine? Like, is English widespread?
It depends on the location. In Kyiv or in other big cities like Odessa, Lviv, Kharkiv, maybe in Dnipro as well, it is easier to find required staff speaking English. When we are talking about small cities, yeah, it will be more difficult. But I think nowadays you can manage everything with translators or with staff speaking English. I think it depends on the number of the positions are required and on the business model.
Thank you. If new business in Ukraine doesn't make profits, do we still need to pay taxes? And what if business need more time to start?
Could you repeat the last part of your question?
So, as far as I understood from the question, the guest asks if the business doesn't make any profits since the very beginning, since the launch of this business, is he still obliged to pay taxes?
It's obliged to pay tax, but we are talking in that case only about salary taxes, yeah, for the director, for example, yeah. And the salary in Ukraine has to be paid. It means that you have to structure your stuff here, knowing how many funds you have at the moment and what is the what will be the situation maybe in a few months. Yeah, but I wouldn't say that's a problem for our clients, because everything we can structure from the tax side. And yes.
Thank you. I hope we answered the question of our guest. I don't know who personally the person who asked this question, but just in case if we didn't get your point, please rewrite your question in the comment chat and we will address it again. And the next question, the 20th, by the way, it's what are the types of real estate in Ukraine which can be owned 100%?
Commercial or commercial real estate or residential real estate. You can, as a foreigner, you can buy 100% of the entire building, for example. Yeah, there are no restrictions in that case. There only one restriction is related to agriculture plots in Ukraine. Yeah, at the moment, yeah, but we have a lot of foreign companies and foreign businessmen in Ukraine operating in agriculture, and they lease the plots and are successful in that case. Yeah.
Thank you. Do we need to rent office to get LLC?
No, you, as mentioned, you only need a legal address in that case. Yeah.
Thank you. The next question. Being a foreign investor, what is the policy for minimum stay in Ukraine in order to be eligible for temporary residency and later permanent residency?
When we're talking about a temporary residence permit, you are not forced to spend a number of days in Ukraine. Yeah. As to the permanent residence permit, if you invest in Ukraine $100,000 and get your permanent residence permit, you can spend here as much as you want days. Yeah. There are no restrictions in that case, or there are.
Thank you. And is there any business program for the digital nomads in Ukraine?
For the digital, could you repeat this?
I can just spell this word NOMADS, digital nomads.
I would suggest that please send us an email. Maybe I don't want to consult you wrong. Yeah, and maybe the participant can send us an email and we will respond to him or her.
That would be definitely a better option. The next question, are there any special requirements for IT company as owner for mobile applications?
It depends if you, in general, I'm not aware of any restrictions or difficulties in that case, but I think it would be better if the participants sent us a short description or some summary of the business model in his case, and we will help the participant to understand how to handle in that case. However, on our website, we have already prepared some articles regarding how to establish an IT company in Ukraine, and about the already mentioned DSCT regime in Ukraine. It's a regime specially established for IT companies, not only from Ukraine, but from abroad as well. And it's really interesting when you're talking about taxes.
Thank you very much. And is Ukraine a part of any international arbitration laws, like UK arbitration or Dubai arbitration?
Yes, we are members of, for example, of the New York Convention, yeah, and other international institutions, and we support our clients in arbitration cases as well. And me personally, I don't see any difficulties in that case. But I always say that we first have to see the documents, agreements, how the provisions are formulated, and in that case, we can provide the first legal opinion. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Another question, what about the online state registers in Ukraine? What kind of official information we can get online? I think our listener would like to know, does e-government work in Ukraine, and what can be checked or tracked online?
I think at the moment we have about 70 registers in Ukraine that are open. You can get all the information in Ukraine. The most of them, of course, is in Ukrainian. But when preparing, for example, legal due diligence for our clients, we can get a part of the information from the open state registers in Ukraine. And the first information for our clients, for example, related to the Ukrainian business partners, we can find in state registers. And it means we are a quite open country at the moment compared to, for example, 10 years ago. And in the last years, we have had significant improvements in that field.
Thank you very much. The next question is, how much investment in real estate should be done to apply for passport in Ukraine? So what's the size of the investment to get the citizenship?
I would suggest in that...
I'm sorry, dear guests, could you please mute yourself? Thank you.
I would suggest that the participants start with obtaining permanent residence permit. In that case, for 10 years at least, and can be easy renewed. When we are talking about Ukrainian passport, you as a foreigner, I think it's my opinion, you not always need a passport, a Ukrainian passport. It means with a permanent residence permit, you will have all the rights except of right to vote. You will have the right to study in Ukraine. You will have the right to live in Ukraine, to travel, to as well as with your family, to buy real estate except of agricultural land. And the Ukrainian passport will give you maybe a little bit more powers, a little bit more rights, but in general, it's not, I wouldn't say that it's easy to get a Ukrainian passport, especially when you are not speaking Ukrainian, yeah? And you have to learn this language. And for businessmen, temporary or permanent residence permit is sufficient. Yeah? It's my opinion.
Thank you very much. Another question is also related to setting up a business in Ukraine. I know you and your colleagues talked so much on the subject today, but still, could you please remind our listeners one more time some of the details. So is it possible to set up a company in Ukraine before going to Ukraine, or how to establish a company without traveling to Ukraine?
It's easy to establish a company in Ukraine. You can issue a power of attorney for DLF, for our lawyers. You can prepare everything and, for example, establish a company. You can obtain a work permit in Ukraine for you. After that, we would provide you with all the required documents for obtaining a business visa at the Ukrainian embassy. And after you get this document, you can travel to Ukraine, and we will assist you with obtaining a temporary residence permit in Ukraine. It means you will get this residence permit and for at least up to 3 years, and it would be the last step of obtaining the required documents.
Thank you very much. Another question is also related to the registration of the investment of the amount $100,000. So is it required to transfer this money as a single shot with some limited period of time? And how to make this transfer, for example, from the Kuwaiti bank to Ukraine?
Okay, after the company is registered, you can transfer that money into the authorized capital, $100,000. Are required, of course, you can do it in parts, but we will, for applying for immigration permit, we will need an official document from the Ukrainian bank that the entire amount of $100,000 have been already transferred. Yeah.
Thank you. And there is the second part of this question asked by another listener, another guest. So can someone buy real estate for $100,000 and get permanent residence, or should it be through starting a company?
First, you have to start with establishing a company. The next step would be to transfer the required amount of $100,000 to obtain an immigration permit, and the last step would be to apply for a residence permit in Ukraine, a permanent residence permit.
Thank you very much. And what about the requirements for fintech or blockchain company in Ukraine?
I think we have to analyze such kind of inquiries in a specific. I would suggest that you send us your email, because we have to understand if a license is required in your case or not, and it's better to get more information from the participant, considering doing that kind of business in Ukraine.
Thank you. And the next question is about ownership of the property. So is ownership of the property limited to a number of years or permanent? And is it inherited to heirs?
Yes, it's not limited. You as a foreigner will have the same scope of rights as we Ukrainians. And it's not limited, and can be inherited, and except of agricultural land. And the real estate will be registered in your name. Yeah. It means you will receive all the documents confirming your ownership here.
Thank you very much. If I have the identification code and I own a company in Ukraine, would that help me to take my business easier?
Do you mean to start your business?
I think yes, starting a business.
Yes, of course. After the company is registered and you opened a bank account here in Ukraine, you can start your business activities. And yes, we would be happy to support you with preparing the needed agreements, or with the negotiations with the Ukrainian counterparts. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rieger. I'm looking through the list of the questions. They're really, really numerous. I think we've beaten the record today. Many of the questions are related to like steel industry or some peculiarities which cannot be like answered like this without any preparations. So as Mr. Igor said dozens of times, if some of your questions weren't answered, please contact PLF. The contacts are in the comment chat, their email. And as Mr. Igor said, he and his colleagues will be more than glad to answer your questions, because some of them are so comprehensive that it cannot be answered like simultaneously. So please contact the DLF company, and they will be happy to help you. And we've got a lot of questions about import and export procedures and exporters of some stuff from Ukraine to Kuwait. We've got the economic section in our embassy, so please feel free to contact. Our colleagues, diplomats, will be more than glad to share all the information, all the scopes of all these lists, Google Forms and Google Sheets, just to help you to develop your business. So we will leave our contacts, emails, telephones, all the lists in the comment chat. Please save it, and we will be happy to stay in touch with you. There is one more question just dropped here. Let me read it. It's good to establish IT services company in Ukraine that target Middle East and Northern Africa region. What is the minimum to invest to open a company? I think IT company.
There are no requirements related to the amount to be invested in Ukraine. It depends on the business model, and of course, it depends on the expenditure at the beginning, in the first months. And as mentioned, we have on our website some articles related to establishing an IT company in Ukraine, and those articles will provide you with the first important information.
Thank you very much, Mr. Igor. Well, the number of questions that we received today really beats all the benchmarks. So, but as for now, these are all the questions that we've got from our guests, and it only remains for me to thank you from the bottom of my heart for your professionalism and devotion. And I would like to take the responsibility to thank you from all of our audience, all the entire like 70 people who are still listening to our conference. And I'm sure the ideas and insights that we've heard today for some of our guests would be a starting point of doing business in Ukraine. And just to wrap up the outcomes of our today's joint work, I would like to invite Dr. Alexander Balanutsa, Ambassador of Ukraine to the State of Kuwait. Dr. Alexander.
Thank you very much, Ms. Olga. Now, guys, we're beating up all the records. As Ms. Olga said, now I've calculated more than 100 questions posed. 100 questions were asked, but some of the questions were already immediately answered by the best legal expertise team, DLF. Especially, I would like to thank Ms. Christina, who is uploading all the necessary documents as soon as we have any questions popping up. Then she definitely downloads all the questions, all the answers, all the files. I've calculated numerous of things, useful files and documents and guidelines, which Ms. Christina has already posted there. So we have answered them by providing the information. And more than 30 questions asked in real time, and Mr. Yuri has provided all the information, and Mr. Yuri provided the core of the information in the presentation line. Now, we've been having questions in regards of the fintech and blockchain. There was any real estate due diligence requests, picking up real estate for investment. I would like to emphasize that the DLF is a comprehensive partner who can as well provide you a legal expertise, as well as do the selection of properties, let's say, whatsoever that you would like to invest in or purchase. They will be able to help you because they represent also a number of real estate developers and big companies who do own numbers of different projects. So per the email which they provided to us, everybody is very welcome to send a direct email to the DLF company with any questions that you might think useful. They will answer, whether it is a blockchain, which we don't yet provide an answer at this seminar, or the fintech, or with the Islamic banks, which I know we're still working. Some of the countries are really wishing to enter the Ukrainian banking sector. We do have a number of international banking groups, and there was a new information that the Turkish State Bank is really considering on entering Ukrainian banking sector. So we might be offering something in the future, but we will probably need more information that we need to dig from the Ukrainian legislation. And Mr. Ihar has mentioned and emphasized that you will send us or the DLF company a direct question, and they will take their time to provide you with the best answer. Now, a DLF is a very trusted, very confident company providing these services in many languages. DLF and Embassy of Ukraine in Kuwait have already a story of 3 years, 4 years, probably full consecutive cooperation. DLF participated in the Ukrainian week of in Kuwait back in January 2020. So DLF, not a company which is just present in Ukraine. They've been to Kuwait. They know what the peculiarities and the specifics of the requests that are coming from the Kuwait businesses, as well as from the residents who are living in Kuwait. The GCC citizens do not require a visa to travel to Ukraine. We're working right now with our governmental authorities to ease the regime for the GCC residents, also on how to enter Ukraine. So in this case, DLF will be our anchor partner for all the inquiries that you might have. Should it be real estate selection? Should it be the legal due diligence for Укргаznaфтовидобування or Укртатнафта, whatever company that the Kuwait business is looking for to invest, to cooperate, to do business, definitely DLF will be able to provide you a very comprehensive feedback. Taking this opportunity, I would like also to introduce our last product that we did together with the Kuwaiti companies. This is a very updated, very new book about touristic guide in Ukraine in Arabic language, which is prepared in the new format of the QR codes. There is not much to read. I know nobody likes to read actually, but we are preparing the information in the QR codes. For those who use the phone, they'll just scan it and you'll have all the information about Ukrainian sites, Ukrainian places definitely to visit, fully in Arabic language. My colleagues have already downloaded this information on the chat. Please use this opportunity to download that information for your personal usage. Now, having said that, I would like once again to thank you, dear participants, for allocating your time for us, and definitely the DLF team. Mr. Ihar, it beats all the benchmarks. Thank you very much for being professional, for being honest, for being so open with questions, definitely with your team, Mr. Yuri and Ms. Christina, who've been helping you to do the job at the highest level, and definitely Mr. Ivan and Ms. Olga, who've been managing the chat and moderating our conversation. I believe that 1 hour and a half was a very, very fruitful information. We are at your disposal. Definitely, now I see Mr. Saleh Al-Selmi from the Union of Investment Companies would also be very happy to continue doing the job, because we're actually working on providing the opportunity for the Union company, for the Union of Investment Companies to do a business mission in Ukraine. That's exactly when we want the DLF to provide us all the information and do what we do. So thank you very much for everyone, the team that has been working on this seminar, as well as the participants. We are available, our commercial attaché, Mr. Ivan, available for any questions. We do have the links in the chat. Please use it right now to download. You have me, I'm at your disposal always. Once again, thank you very much. And definitely Dr. al-Adwani, who is supporting me all the time. He is having also an event right now in Ukraine, but he was very generous to join us at the very beginning. So thank you very much, gentlemen. We are at your disposal. مشكور وايد، مشكور، شكرا من قلبي حبيبي. مرحبا وأهلا وسهلا في أوكرانيا في أي وقت مناسبك. نحن نجهز. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be always with you.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Doctor. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
We'll be working
Bye.
for you.
Bye.
Thank you very much, and stand with Ukraine. See you at our future.
Thank you very much.
Чому так?